Morning, everyone. Sorry, we're a little late, but it is so worth the wait because I have Drew Miller with me. He was, I guess you always will be, a professional hockey player. A lot of people know you that you were with the Anaheim Ducks, Tampa Bay Lightning, and you were, of course, a Detroit Red Wing as well. That's really what us Detroiters want to know you for. A couple, well, let me give you some stats here. You
Uh,
were drafted in the sixth round in 2003, and you'll correct me when I'm wrong. And you entered the draft and made your NHL debut in 2007. Is
yeah,
that
in the playoffs
in the
for Anaheim.
playoffs with
Yes.
the Anaheim Ducks? Um, and a lot of people will say Drew Miller, and that is also because you are a hockey family, which isn't. I find that a lot of families that are hockey families, but your brother was the Anaheim Ducks goaltender and Ryan Miller.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. You guys probably hit each other a lot as kids growing up.
Yeah, it worked out pretty nice because he's a goalie and I'm a forward. So he needed someone to shoot on him and I needed someone to shoot on. So in the street hockey, mini stick hockey in the basement, and then
Yeah,
ultimately on the ice, we were able to play, train, and hang out. So we did a lot of hockey. But yeah,
that's so
I was
nice.
the 10th person in my family, the Miller family, to play hockey at Michigan State. So starting back in the 50s, my grandpa came down from Regina, Saskatchewan, and started. Little did he know he would be the first of 10. So it's definitely a lot of fun to be a part of a hockey family. But right now, my brother just retired, so hockey is basically with my nephew that's 6 is the last one
He's
right now.
he's the next Miller
Yeah,
hockey
he's the
player.
next Miller. So
Boy, that
uh,
pressure on a 6 year old.
yeah, so I have 2 daughters. So if one of them chooses to play hockey, then there's also an option there as well. But
Love
um,
that.
no, I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think, one of the reasons, and I just said this offline, that, I definitely want to lay out your professional hockey career, and so many people know you in that, but you've made that transition now, which is hard. I mean, your whole life, I mean, you talk about a 6 year old. You probably had skates on before you could probably barely walk, I'm sure. And the regiment of hockey is, I have a nephew who is a hockey player. His father is from Toronto. He lives here, but in the States. But hockey is an early morning sport, and an afternoon sport, granted, but ice time, as we know, is a premium. And
Yeah.
so you were up early, dedicated to it. And it is always a life of, strict routine, strict regiment. And, then it comes to an end. And that transition for any professional athlete, you know, it's always out there. You don't think about it because you're in the game, you're doing your job,
Mhm.
but eventually, there's going to be life after a professional sport. And here you are.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about what you're doing now, first, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how that transition.
So right now I'm an insurance agent in the insurance industry with KIG, which is short for Crockett Insurance Group in Southfield, Michigan. I've been here about 9 months, and before that, I was with a different agency. So I've been doing insurance for just over 2 years. So I've settled in, and I really enjoy what I do. I think that insurance is not something that people just, you're like, how did you get into insurance? And it's not something you just like, oh, hey, you know what? I'm going to go into insurance. You kind of fall into it. And I had a family member that introduced me to it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I made the transition to my new agency, and it's going well. Obviously, in a pandemic, uh, things are a little bit different, but I think
Yeah.
as we come out of it, things are starting to pick up business wise. And no, I just like the interaction with people. I really enjoy talking to them, doing my best to help them out. And I think that uh, that's something that on a day-to-day basis, I really do enjoy that.
What do what do you think you've taken from years of, being regiment in, anything from your diet to practice to now in this business world, which, like you said, is a pandemic world that hopefully will come out of. What do you think you've, taken with you into now the business world?
So this is something that I've thought a lot about, and it's something that I've had to work through because, as you spoke about earlier, I know there's hockey T-shirts out there everywhere, and it says "Eat, sleep, play hockey,"
Yeah.
and that was my life, and that was my
Mhm.
life. I did start getting on skates before I could walk. My dad would put me on and hold me up, and I
Mhm.
kicked my feet, and everything was hockey to me. And then once it became junior hockey around 16 years old, it became almost like a profession
Mhm.
lifestyle. And you train a certain way, you have a season for a certain amount of months. And then once the season is over, then you go into your off-season training, and then that ends and you start your next season. So I went through that cycle from 16 to like 33 years old at a high level, and just going from junior hockey to college to pro, and you get used to this, and then like you said, all of a sudden one day it's like, all right, it's done. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't say that the day it ended was when I started saying like, what am I going to do now? I had been mentally preparing for it and thinking about it before that a little bit, but you want to stay present in the moment and
Mhm.
really put all your thought into being the best you can be for hockey. But it was a little, it was challenging, but the biggest thing for me as a hockey player was understanding my strengths and really just dissecting my game.
Yeah.
So when I transitioned into business, I started thinking like, well, what am I going to do? And I got into insurance. And then I said, how am I going to be successful in this?
Mhm.
I'm kind of starting later. I've never done it. Um, I've been a consumer of it. I have insurance, and that's all I really knew of it.
Yeah.
Well, I needed a starting point. I think that was the biggest thing I always had in hockey. When things weren't going well, I had to simplify things and then have a starting point to almost start again and get myself back on track. So I told myself, I go, you know what? You have a lot of great experiences and things that made you successful with hockey. Just transition that mentality over to the business world and and try to associate things. So I would think of like, okay, the office is like a hockey locker room, and my mentality is on the ice. It's something I can transition over into the business world. And you got to be a good teammate. You got to be a good office teammate as well. I think just the things that the core values I had within hockey, I tried to just think of, okay, here's hockey, transition to the business world. And I think confidence, work ethic, preparation. I mean, there's so many different things that I was regimented in, and I just had to tweak those a little bit
Mhm.
and prepare myself to work at a desk instead of on the ice. But it was a
I think
welcome.
that's incredible. I think that you make a lot of sense in that, taking that mindset as a transition, because um, you know, you almost become the coach of yourself in that. For so many years you had a coach talking you through different skill sets, that then you're taking that information in, you're utilizing it. Now you're your own coach.
Yeah,
um,
which is
and
different.
yeah, and your own coach every day. How do you deal with this though? It's, do you have that competitiveness? To be a professional athlete, you've got to be competitive. I mean,
For sure.
to be a Spartan, thank
Yeah,
God.
bleed green.
Yeah, that's right. You know, you have to be competitive. So now you're in the business world, and it's a you're still competitive, but how do you translate that? Is it a different height of competitiveness? Is it within yourself? How do
Oh,
you?
I think like the one thing that drew me to the new agency I'm at, KIG, is that it is a team atmosphere. I
Mm,
have mentors in the office that have been around the insurance industry for a long time. We have support staff, account managers, all this, everyone that's working together and pulling the
mm,
rope to be on the right side of things. And that's one thing that I think is big for me is I don't want to do this by myself. I want
mm.
to be in a locker room, which made me an office now, but I want to be
Yeah.
supported by a team. And that's the environment that I feel like I can thrive in. And I found that here at KIG. And I think that just like my mentality of, hey, I can associate things to hockey to have that different perspective, but associate it in my own way, but also be surrounded by people that are better at insurance than me and can help me out and
No, I
help
think
me
that,
grow.
but I think that's important. I mean, I love that you say that and recognize that years from now you will be that mentor. When you have been doing it for only X amount of years, you need mentors. You know, first of all, you and I met through John Dwoskin. John is a huge advocate of having many mentors, and I believe in that too. He and I've talked about that, but to be able to, I have a list, and I will say, like, you know, I even have, you know, I have clients that are my mentors. But I believe that having mentors are so important, and you will become, you know, one of those as well
And I think
in your insurance, because I certainly know in hockey you
yeah.
are one.
And I think that, yeah, I think that for me, transition was welcome. I was ready for it. I think some
Mhm,
guys aren't ready to transition out of hockey because that's all they've known and it's
mhm,
scary. And I talked to guys about it, the
mhm,
teammates and good friends of mine that are going through it right now. It is challenging. It doesn't just
mhm.
happen overnight. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, I'm good. It was fine."
Yeah.
It had its ups and downs, and then like any transition does. But I think when times get challenging, I look back to when I was playing hockey, and people look at my career and they say, "Man, he played in the NHL. He won a Stanley Cup. He had a played 12 years pro." But when I look at it, I didn't learn as much as from winning a Stanley Cup or all the highlight things. I learned the most from the most challenging moments. And I mean, I got
Mhm.
sent down to the minors like 9 times in 2 years. I was healthy scratch for games, meaning like I sat out and watched on the sidelines my teammates played. I put on waivers. I was traded. I was, there's so many different
All
things.
the beautiful things of being a
Yeah.
professional
Well, these are the
athlete.
things that people don't realize that you
Mhm,
go through, but these are the moments that I learned the most from
mhm.
and built me
Yeah.
to the person I am today to prepare me for the rest of my life. And these are the things that I really draw on when I need them.
Mhm.
And that's what I think is going to help me be successful moving forward. And it's great talking about, man, I played with this guy or I played in the Stanley Cup finals and I got a ring and all that. It's fun to talk about that stuff, but I would rather talk to people about the challenging times and what I've learned from it
Yeah.
and how I've grown as a person to be
And
more.
I can appreciate that. What would you, I mean, I want to talk about insurance too, but what would you tell an up and coming, I'm a house full of lacrosse players, and I used to, from a public relations standpoint, I used to work with parents to help their kids get ready for recruiting. And every mother I met with thought their kid was the best lacrosse player in the
Oh, yeah.
world. And I used to say, guess what? You know, your kid is great. I'm glad you think they're great. Let me introduce you to a bunch of coaches who have a lineup of other kids that are great. But what would you tell kids today, and I, you know, who have aspirations of the NBA, the NHL, the draft. We just, it's always fun to watch the draft and these basements full of
Yeah.
parents crying. But I think about the years of carpools and,
Yeah.
it's very few people who get that moment that
Yeah.
you yourself had,
It definitely is. It definitely is very few, small percentage, and you
Mhm,
see how it definitely takes a village to help that one person get to that spot.
mhm.
So I'm so appreciative of my parents and everyone that supported me throughout my career to get me to where I was, because it wasn't going to happen just by my luck and my skill. Is going to be people helping me. But for young kids, I think the biggest thing for them is at a certain age, you got to just be having fun
Mhm,
with different sports, not just one specifically. And I
mhm,
think that the biggest thing for once it becomes more of a, like when I talk about when I became 16 years old, things changed for me and became real. I started playing junior hockey, and
mhm.
that's when I decided this is what I want to do, and I want to go for my goals to make college and pro. I
Yeah.
think at that point, it's you got to look at yourself in the mirror. You got to just really, how am I, like, think about how am I going to separate myself from my competition and others out there? Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? Work on both. And I think that the biggest thing that I talk to the kids in hockey at this around that age is finding that competitive edge, get that chip on
Mhm,
your shoulder, and really go out there. And when someone's looking for a specific spot on a team or anything like that, you want to fill that role and some. And I think that that's what I try to tell these guys: go out there with that chip on the shoulder, have confidence, play with a swagger, but don't be like an ego driven player. Like you gotta
mhm.
be confident, but um
Still be a nice guy.
yeah, for sure. No, for
Mhm.
sure. And I think that um
It's a good balance,
yeah, you gotta be
you know?
balanced, but I think it's you gotta be all in. You gotta
Right.
at a certain point, not too young, but at a certain point you gotta be
Mhm,
all in. And I think you gotta be structured in how you plan to get there. And I think that that's where having uh, parents or mentors or coaches, whoever it is, someone that's helping you through that
mhm,
process. And I think that confidence, young kids with confidence, you can really see it. So trying to help grow your confidence. And I think with confidence, it comes from your ability, and your ability gets better by repetition and practice. And I think that that's something that a lot of kids, they want instant gratification and they want things done for them or just given to them. And I think
right.
that when you really go out there and earn it, and you really go out there and the sweat and the blood, sweat, and tears, or whatever it is, when no one's looking, that's when the growth
That's
is.
one's,
And I
yeah.
think that that's
So let's talk a little bit about that in relationship to what is the niche of the insurance you're selling. And with that in mind, what is your competitive edge? Like this is, I like to say this is the sales pitch part, like,
yeah, no.
I mean,
So
who is your client?
yeah, so for me, I'm a property casualty agent, and what that means is I sell personal lines, home, auto, umbrellas. One thing I like to tell those type of people that are looking for different coverages for their home or auto is that, hey, you know what, I can make a difference for you. I'm gonna do as much as I can to provide a great policy and protect your assets. And I think I'm just realistic with these clients, because they can go out there. There's so many different agents or carriers and say, here's my information, give me a quote.
Yeah.
And just like I was talking about with hockey, I'm trying to separate myself from those agents and go a little bit more above and beyond, and explain and educate these people and say, hey, you know what? For example, you guys have a great basement, finished basement. A normal homeowner's policy does not have water backup coverage.
Hmm.
So I want to make sure that what you've put into that basement and your assets down there are covered. So let's look at the options you have for this coverage, because I understand that you want to have a less premium, but you want that premium to actually and policy to be working for you. So let's make sure we get that coverage for the basement. So worst case scenario happens, then you have the coverage, it gets fixed, whatever you've lost is replaced, and you're back whole again. And that's what I try to explain to people is just don't be price driven, because you'll be sorry when something happens and you're like, oh my God, why did I not pay just a tiny bit more to actually have the coverage that I would be using? And so that's on the personal side. So I also do commercial business side of things. And one example right now that's really big in the commercial world is cyber coverage. And a couple of years ago, you would look at, oh man, people don't want to buy cyber coverage because they think it's never going to happen to them. And it's only big, huge companies that get hacked. Now it's like, I think everyone got emails now for phishing for this, trying to get that little in, and they take it. And you want to make sure that your business is covered, because there's so much that goes into the behind the scenes after there's a hack. You got to let all your customers know. You got to, I mean, there's got to be coverages for this, that. There's so many different aspects that are changing every day as the cyber and hacking world.
Oh, and we just saw one of the largest, the U.S. pipeline, being hacked. I have a client who is an IT service, and they deal with that all the time. I mean, their role is to make sure that companies are set up so that doesn't happen. But the new, the problem is that hackers today are savvy. I mean, to say the least. I didn't, that's very interesting. I've never really talked to them about the fact that there is cyber insurance. That's fascinating.
So it's something that's growing, and it's something that we are really trying to educate our clients and potential clients, just saying, hey, you know what? We can cover your liability. We can cover your property. We can get you an umbrella policy. We can get you employment practice, liability insurance. I mean, we're going to take care of the whole package. But one part that people really don't think about that much is the cyber side. So when you educate them, paint that picture for them and explain how it's evolving and changing every day. And yeah, I mean, you're going to have a fire, or someone can have a slip and fall.
Right.
You're going to have that coverage, but we're planning on protecting your assets in worst case scenarios. And this is a threat that's very, I wouldn't say new, but the level of the severity is growing.
Oh, I think 100%. Yeah.
Really to just educate, provide that option for them. And that's something that it's fun on the commercial side of things, is you are building a policy that's tailor-made to that business, and really trying to circle them with a fence and keep out all the bad. And do your best to do that. So I think building that policy with the client is something that I really do enjoy. And it's something that my mentality from hockey is, hey, I'm going to give it my all. I worked my butt off, and my attention to detail is there to benefit my clients. So that's, I take pride in that, because it's my repitation. And so that's what I love it.
I love it. But one of the things I love about doing these interviews is also the things that I personally learn and can share, and learning the different really the different areas of coverage that we now should be getting, that people aren't thinking about. And I think that you bring up a really important point, and that is, if you haven't checked in with your insurance person, if you don't even know who your insurance person is, if you haven't sat down and talked to them, then you're really missing the boat. And it may be time for a change. It may be time to have a conversation with someone like Drew. And because things are changing, I mean, and things like cyber security insurance, I mean, it would never have occurred to me. It occurs to me to protect your business, but it didn't occur to me that there's not only can you protect your business from ransomware and things like that, you can actually have insurance to protect your business.
Yeah. And it's not just one set of coverage. Within these cyber policies, there's so many pieces and different ways of covering your business within them. And it's I
That's
mean, it's
fascinating.
amazing that what really how intricate it is. And it's no, I
Right.
think the one thing that we see in insurance is that people get comfortable with their coverage
Hmm.
and they just renew it and renew it and renew it. But they don't take into account that their businesses are growing, their assets are changing, and their
Their
exposure,
technologies are changing.
yeah, the
Yeah.
exposures out there are different. So they need to be checking in with their agents. And if their agent's not checking in with them, then they're, I mean, year to year, things change. So
Mhm.
it's definitely something that with KIG, we take pride in making sure that our clients are taken care of. They're up to date on what their policies need to be. And I think the structure and processes within our office here are something that helps me be successful for my clients.
How often do you update? Every year or?
So, so every policy will renew every year. So when it comes up about 180 days out before renewal, we're going through that process within our agency to go over the policies within it, get updates from the insured on payrolls or sales, anything
Okay.
that's changed different, and then making sure that within our markets that we are at the best market for them and their business.
Great. Well, you can go to getkig.com. You can email Drew for, to talk to him directly at drewm at getkig.com.
And I'm
And,
working with Paul Rogers, who was on John's uh,
oh,
sales class on a landing page. So I'll have that probably within the next week. We'll be finished
oh,
up. So easy way
fantastic.
to book a Calendly meeting with me and all that.
So
So it's
Drew
very,
is Drew is getting tech.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
So all these things, I'll tell you, there's so many apps out there. And my public relations advice to you is you will be inundated with lots of apps. Try some of them first on, free 30-day, play around with them. That's my little advice to you because some of them you'll like, some of them just won't work for you.
Yeah,
So make sure, I always tell people, not everything works for your way of doing things. Like, from the technology standpoint, I still have a paper calendar and I still have an electronic one. Thank God, because over the weekend, something totally went awry with my electronic calendar on my phone. And I still
I do
have
both
my
as
paper
well.
one. Thank God for the paper,
Yep.
so, and I mean, I know I have, lists in my phone, but I still have a paper list of things to do.
Yep.
So, I know I'm old, but you always have to find systems that work for you and try them
For
as you
sure.
go through. So I love talking to you. I definitely, you should come back on anytime. No, the invitation is always open because I think what's important is I think that different things happen in the insurance world and happen in the news. So for sure, you and I see each other in little boxes on Mondays.
Yep.
You're far more religious about being there than I've been able to be, but um, be sure to check back in with me because I want to be able to share any kind of information with insurance that pops up or new products or new things that people need to be thinking about and get a
Sure.
hold of you.
No, I appreciate it. No, it was great coming on and chatting with you, and I appreciate you just talking about my new business and
Yeah,
the transition.
I'm always happy to talk to a Spartan. We can
Yeah, I
talk
think.
about your other
Oh,
your other teams, but us Spartans have to stick together. And the truth is that we need a lot of help at any given time, usually.
yeah,
All right, Drew. I will probably see you Monday and
sounds
have a
good
great week. Thanks so much for coming on.
for sure. Thanks so much for having me
All right, talk to you soon. Have a great day.
too. Bye.
Bye bye.